Welcome to the Psychology Club podcast, brought to you by Vicente Martinez High School.
Welcome to the Psychology Club podcast. Today we're talking with Iana and Jorge from the Contra Costa Cannabis Coalition. Welcome. My name is Kamala. Can you tell us a little bit about the Contra Costa Cannabis Coalition and what it does?
Yeah, my name is Jorge. I'm the Cannabis Prevention Program Manager. I work out of what's called the Alcohol and Other Drug Services Department. And so to give you all a little bit of backstory of how the coalitions came to be, it all started with Prop 64 in 2016, which was the landmark decision to legalize recreational use of marijuana or cannabis. And so through that, funds have been used, taxpayer funds have been used from the sale of cannabis to create programs. So Contra Costa Health applied for this programming a few years ago. And one of the things, the goals and objectives of this program was to develop coalitions throughout Contra Costa County. I'll be talking about the adult coalition, and Iana will give you a little bit more information about the youth coalition. But the adult coalition, what we wanted to do was to be able to have a group of people of like educators, parents, concerned citizens in the community, law enforcement, and to bring them all together into a group and to be able to talk about policy, laws, and to a certain extent education regarding cannabis. So we started this about almost a year and a half ago. We put together the adult coalition. We've been working with our coalition members to educate them on policy making, get them ready to understand how we pass policies at the local level, and to get the folks in this group to be advocates for their communities. So that's what the adult coalition does. They go out to the community. Well, they will go out to the community. They'll provide what's called public comment at local jurisdictions. So like city council meetings, they'll be able to provide and talk about statistics, data, and the effects of cannabis on their families, their lives, and their community. And now I'll pass it to Iana to talk about what the Youth Coalition does.
Yeah, so my name is Iana. I am a senior health education specialist. Like Jorge said, he works out of alcohol and other drugs, which is technically behavioral health, and I work in Contra Costa Health under public health. So I'm housed under like community wellness and prevention programs. And so it's like a partnership between the two things because cannabis in our community affects behavioral health and as well as like the health of the public in the community. So I oversee our youth coalition. So it's made up of young people between the ages of 14 and 21 who are really interested in learning more about cannabis, its impact on the community, its impact on their peers and on the person as well. And so we do a lot of education, so learning about kind of cannabis as a whole, and then ultimately working towards some of the things that Jorge was speaking to. So like going to community or city council meetings, sharing education with their peers, and brainstorming and working through how we can create a better, healthier community, especially when it comes to like youth cannabis use.
And just to add, our main goal with the coalitions is to reduce cannabis use for young people and to hope that they will hold out till they're old enough to be able to use.
To make those kind of like educated, informed decisions.
Hi, I'm Kaylee. Since marijuana became legal in California, how have use partners and products policy changed?
So the first thing we have to look at is potency. Potency has changed so much over the past few decades. In the 1990s, the 70s, the 80s, marijuana cannabis was about 5% THC in it. THC is the compound that gives that so-called feeling of highness. So it has
psychoactive abilities.
Yes, exactly. And so it has changed a lot. So now in the 2020s, cannabis, specifically flowers, range up to 20 to 25% THC in them, compared to 5% in the 1990s. So that's a larger level of increase in potency. Now, if you're also looking at concentrate or wax, that's at an even higher level of potency. I believe I've heard of 90% potency, which is a high level of cannabis use. And as Iana mentioned, the psychoactive effects that can happen from this are really large in terms of what it can affect in the young person. We also want to talk a little bit about what legalization has done. So since cannabis has been legalized, what we've seen in usage patterns, specifically among users who were using before legalization, some of the data has pointed that it's people who used before legalization, and once legalization happened, their increase of usage, the usage increased compared to those who didn't use before. So there wasn't a big jump in terms of people who didn't use cannabis before legalization starting to use cannabis. It just saw the increase in actual users. So that's some of the things that we've been seeing across the county with data that we've been reading, specifically what we've been seeing, like for example, in high schools, middle schools, around cannabis use.
Wow, that's some amazing information I've never known before. So hi, my name is Lydia. What are some risks and side effects of high potency cannabis, especially for young people?
Yeah, I will preface it by saying that it can be kind of hard to predict because there's so many variables. Like you think of like genetic predisposition to like addiction. You think of like how frequently someone's using. You think of those potency levels. Like, are they frequently using something that's low potency versus high potency? So it can be hard to predict. Like, it's not the same across the board. Everyone's not going to have the same reaction, but there is the potential for some sort of risks and side effects with cannabis use, especially if you're frequently using high potency cannabis. So there's several studies and things around about like the impacts of heavy cannabis use under the age of 25, which is before your frontal lobe is fully developed. And the frontal lobe is super important for like decision making and emotional regulation and things like that. So if you think about it and you're using these high potency products before that part of your brain is even fully developed, that can have kind of lasting impacts on you going into your adult years and stuff. Because if you're not developing those skills within that kind of that range of like productivity and like working on it, you don't regain that later. So you're kind of impacting yourself mentally there. There's also other risks. There's something called cannabis hyperemesis disorder, and that's something that could potentially come with frequent use of high potency cannabis. And essentially, like in the simplest terms, it's like a nausea vomiting disorder, like you're uncontrollably vomiting. It is reversible from my understanding of like if you kind of quit using as much, but that is something that is a risk. There's also potential for like different respiratory difficulties, especially if you're smoking. There's the potential for heart disease, and there was like recently studies that came out where it doesn't even depend on like if you're just smoking versus like taking edibles or something. Like across the board with cannabis use, there is like an increased risk of heart disease and stroke potential. And then of course there's also potential for like other substance use disorders as well, becoming like addicted or reliant on other substances.
And I want to add one thing that Ayana just said right now about being addicted to other substances. One of the misconceptions that comes with cannabis is the idea that a person can't get addicted. But cannabis can be addicting, and especially the higher the potency, the higher the addiction to that to usage. So that's something to think about. And I think, but based on what we've read and what we've seen, a lot of young people that are using higher potency are coming with higher addictions. And what we're seeing later on, that can lead, it can be a pathway to other substances. What we've been seeing so recently, like fentanyl usage, cocaine usage, and things like that.
Yeah, and I will also add, because I know y'all read an article recently on cannabis use and psychosis, that there is that kind of potential link. Like there's been studies that say there isn't, that there is, but there is a possibility for a link in the increase of mental health disorders, so like schizophrenia, anxiety, depression. We've read and heard studies of people going into kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Like psychosis and getting hallucinations and things and stuff. And those are things that are not reversible as well. So it's like if it happens once, and it's like you shouldn't take in cannabis again, because there is the potential that you can go into kind of like a psychosis episode again.
Well, let me ask you all this. What have you heard of reasons why young people, especially your age, use cannabis for?
Like emotional distress,
Yeah,
or like
I've heard that a lot. Like I guess a coping method, like a blanket, so
yeah.
that they don't
It
have to
kind of
deal
like
with.
covers up like what you have going on and kind of gives
Yeah.
you a break, and then
Yeah,
Mhm.
or like they just want to try it. Because
Right,
other
or
people
like
around
yeah.
them.
they're around like their environment. They're like, oh, let me try this.
like if they're doing
Yeah.
it, then why can't I? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's scary because if you go and do it, not knowing how it's gonna affect you, because it affects people differently, no matter like what. It's just scary, like thinking about you can do something that seems so little, but you don't know the outcomes of it, like in the long run.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And a lot of young people who purchase cannabis don't necessarily purchase it from a dispensary, which we'll talk a little bit later, one of the questions around that. But the cannabis that they're getting, they don't know what the level of THC is in it.
Or what's in it.
Or what's in
Yeah.
it. So those are like things that young people need to think about, especially if they're buying cannabis off the street from someone, a peer, is that levels of THC are varying, and the effects of it, they're not even going to know what they're going to get.
And that's the scary part too, is because you can sit there and think like you're smoking actual weed or actual THC, and you could be sitting there puffing on something that's not anywhere near that.
Exactly.
Hi, my name is Taylor, and I was wondering, how are teens getting access to cannabis today, and what role does social media play in that? Like example, Snapchat plugs, Instagram plugs, stuff like that.
That's a really good question. Recently, we held some community listening sessions within Contra Costa County, specifically tied around drug use, but also cannabis use within young people, specifically all of the different regions within Contra Costa County. So we were able to hear from the community. We were also able to hear from a lot of young people about where they're getting access, or where they're hearing they're getting access to cannabis. So a lot of what we've been hearing is they're not getting it from dispensaries themselves, but they're getting it from either older family members, they're getting it from peers, they're getting it from Snapchat, Instagram. They're hearing a lot about the sales going on online. So it'll be someone selling vapes, it'll be someone selling flour. And one of the things we have the opportunity also to speak with law enforcement about this, and some of the challenges that come up with this is if they don't know, they're not able to stop it. And so especially if someone is selling online through Snapchat, through Instagram, if they don't know what they're selling or they're not aware of it, it goes by, and young people are getting easy access to these products through these social media platforms. So a lot of the time, social media especially makes it more acceptable to either smoke cannabis or eat cannabis. You'll have dispensaries that are posting their products on the Instagram, so a young person can easily find this dispensary on Instagram and then look at the products that they're selling, not knowing what it is, but they're getting exposure. And what the data says is that when a person, especially a young person, is exposed to advertisement sales, it gives them the interest to want to actually go find that product. So the easy access to these products online, especially Instagram, Snapchat, is making it a lot easier for young people to use, and it's also normalizing the usage of these products without thinking about the consequences of what these products may do to them. Do you all, well, let me ask you all a question. Do you all have heard of people who sell online through Instagram, Snapchat, anything like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
There's like some people on like TikTok Shop.
TikTok.
There's like people on TikTok Shop. They're like, if you want to quit smoking, there's this, and it's basically like supposed to be a diffuser.
Yeah.
And like it's like flavored. It's like it's supposed to help you quit, or like there's like a bunch of young people in the comments and like buying, and like most of the reviews on it are like young people too. What resources or alternatives are available for people who want to cut back or quit?
Yeah, I'd say within, like, we both work for Contra Costa Health, so within Contra Costa Health, there is the alcohol and other drugs substance use treatment services. They have like counselors for young people. There's also like something called the Behavioral Health Access Line that also you're able to call, voice what's going on, and you can be kind of directed to specific resources that will help you specifically. And that's not just for like cannabis uses, that's just for kind of like substance use across the board for adults and young adults. And then this question also prompted me to look a little like further, like what else is available, or are there any kind of resources specific to quitting cannabis smoking? And I honestly wasn't able to find many that are just specific to cannabis. You have ones that are like in general, this is for substance use, or you have like several that are for like quitting tobacco or nicotine. But there is also kind of like something that's called like co-use. So a lot of people, like there's studies around it, who smoke cannabis will also often kind of smoke or partake in kind of nicotine or tobacco. So then there is also a way for you like are eligible to utilize some of those resources for quitting one substance, because those resources could also be helpful for quitting cannabis. So there's things like Kick It California, which offers those resources to quit smoking, nicotine, or vaping. There's also something called like Smoke Free Teen. So there's resources out there. It's just difficult when you're looking specifically for cannabis. So there's definitely like a hole in resources for just that one specific substance.
I do want to add to Iana mentioned about the alcohol and other drugs program. They have substance abuse counselors, and specifically youth counselors, that will work with a young person who is looking to go into treatment for their addiction to cannabis. So they can support them, they can get them with resources, support, guidance, and really help them through their journey. And the great thing is that all these services are free to the community, so they're able to access that. And some of our programs are in some of the local schools within Contra Costa County. We have counselors in different schools throughout the county that are already working within the schools to help young people with their addiction to cannabis use.
Mm-hmm.
What policies does Contra County have around selling high potency cannabis products on selling high quality of cannabis products?
So when it comes to high potency products, one of the things that we have to think about when we mentioned about the coalitions help in creating policies that support creating healthier communities. So when it comes to high potency, there has to be policies in place that prohibit the sale of these products. Now, one of the things that we do, and specifically in Contra Costa, is we have been working with the Board of Supervisors in unincorporated Contra Costa County to create policies around high potency. Currently, there's no policy right now about high potency. So dispensaries can sell, as I mentioned, as high potency as they want, especially when it comes to flour and wax. Edibles is a little different in terms of the milligrams. They're only limited to 100 milligrams per item. So there is a per package. There is a limit there, but it's not necessarily the potency. It's more the milligrams of amount of THC in there. And so Contra Costa, as I mentioned, doesn't have a potency limit. That's one of our goals with our coalitions, is to work with the Board of Supervisors to create a potency limit that would limit the amount of THC in these products and really regulate it at a more healthier state for people who want to be able to use that. Contra Costa has also historically regulated flavor products when it comes to these type of products, specifically talking about like tobacco, but they also mirror so cannabis policy also mirrors tobacco in terms of flavors. So there is a ban on flavors in cannabis in unincorporated Contra Costa. So dispensaries cannot sell flavored cannabis, but there's a loophole. Cannabis have what's called terpenes in it, which provide natural flavors. So we can't regulate natural flavors. So there is still going to be flavors in these different items that are sold. So for example, they're very the industry is very tactful in how they sell their products in the names that they give them. For example, like Blue Dream. And some people have heard that word before. Yeah. So what kind of flavor is that? It's exactly. So we don't know, but there's natural flavors that come out in the terpenes within the cannabis that give it a certain type of taste when a user uses it. So that's one thing in Contra Costa, is that they can't add additive flavors to the products to make it more enticing for people. So that's one policy. And that's one thing that we're also trying to work with other local jurisdictions, so like other cities, is to set these kind of policies that mirror what Contra Costa County has in their unincorporated areas. Because if we can limit the additives that are going into these products, they will be not completely harmful, but a little bit less harmful to the person inhaling them or eating them.
Less enticing as well. Especially if like our goal is like youth usage and like getting putting barriers there, like it'll be less enticing if it doesn't taste like Blue Dream, whatever that is. So, yeah.
And then I also want to mention too, when we talk about policy, we talk about potency. We also talk about what's called density in terms of the amount of dispensaries that can be near each other. So how many of you have been around or been to a city where you see multiple either liquor stores or tobacco stores right next to each other? So one of the policies that we have in unincorporated Contra Costa is we limit the amount of storefront dispensaries that are in the county, but also we limit them how far they can be to schools. We limit how far they can be to daycare centers, libraries, youth sensitive areas. So there are protections put in place to ensure that these businesses are not enticing young people to get them to want to use these products more. So when I think about policy and I think about high potency, it's a upward journey, not a battle, a journey. It's an upward journey that we're going through because we would be one of the first in the country to set a policy limiting potency. Currently, no other jurisdiction in the country has a potency cap on their products for their jurisdictions. So it would be an upward journey too, because one of the things too is that the industry believes that they should be able to sell the amount of potency that they want to sell. So that's also something we have to take into consideration when we're making these policies, is that there may be pushback from the industry in terms of what we're hoping to pass in terms of a policy.
Wow, that's good. Is there any other information you guys want to share? Anything else?
I do want to go back to how patterns of potency has changed. I think one of the goals that we have as a department is to figure out how to educate young people more on the, I don't know if dangers is the right word of cannabis. Risks. The risks of cannabis is figuring out how can we educate our young people more about these risks, and how can we educate them when it comes to when they're dealing with depression, anxiety, how can we work to get them more connected with resources that help them not feel that their only thing that they can turn to is cannabis for support? Because at the end of the day, as you mentioned, it's just a blanket on top of a blanket. So you're trying to fix one problem with another problem, creating an even bigger problem. And as what we've seen, young people who use heavily when they're young, it can lead to other drugs, as we mentioned earlier. And then, when you're dealing with the other drugs, that's an even a bigger issue because it can cause dysfunction within families. It can have so many consequential issues with that person's life in terms of obtaining jobs, in terms of obtaining housing. So those are things to really think about. And so we as a department are figuring this out. Do we have the answer yet? No. We also don't have the people power to be able to go to every school and provide the education. That would be amazing. But we also know we're battling an industry, or we're working against an industry that has certain tactics that mirror a lot of what the tobacco industry did in the 70s and 80s in attracting young people, attracting communities of color, attracting vulnerable communities to use their products. So those are things that we have to think about as we're doing the work that we're doing and figuring out how to affect young people. Let me ask you all this. What would you all recommend, if you have the opportunity to talk to your local leaders, what would you recommend them do to help lower youth usage of cannabis use? What would you all tell your local leaders?
I don't know, like maybe, I don't know, look for signs or something and have interventions, maybe. Show them that, what the bad side could be and the risks, and then maybe they'll be like, oh, that's really bad, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Let me also ask you this. So some of the feedback that we've gotten is that young people are getting these products from an older family member. We can't really create a law that says, hey, that family member can't give that young person cannabis. So we're often at a standpoint where we're trying to figure out, what do we do? Because they're not getting it from the dispensary, they're getting it from a family member. What do you all think is something that, an idea or plan that could address that? I know that's a very big question, but.
I don't know, because if it's kind of behind closed doors, how are you going to see it and stuff? It's kind of hard.
Something to think about.
That is.
It's a lot, something to think about.
It is, because we're thinking about it all the time, and we're trying to figure out how do we do this, and how do we support the young person who is getting that. And that's why we're glad to be here, because I wanted to hear from you all. What are tactics? What are things that you think we as a county health department can do to address this? Or is there anything more that we can do to help young people?
I know signs kind of affect it, because there's a sign. I think it's on the highway. I forgot where it is, but it's if you drive high, you get a DUI.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I see.
Yeah, and it's there's a number at the bottom, more signs that could help.
Yeah, more signs, and probably going into schools more.
Yeah.
Just making sure you're meeting with the right students, I guess, and then showing them the better side of things.
Yeah.
One of the things we also heard was about increased usage of vaping on school sites, and also bathrooms being closed off because people are vaping in it. What do you think can be done to support, to help stop that? Do you think there's anything that can be done?
Maybe monitoring people, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Smoke detectors. But smoke detectors are useless, kind of.
Yeah.
Like,
maybe monitoring the kids.
yeah.
Do you think let's say a young person is caught using in the bathroom or vaping, do you think connecting them with resources and getting them into some sort of program, do you think that would be helpful for them?
Yeah.
I think instead of shaming them or condemning them, maybe try to help them and see what they're going through that made them feel like that's their way out,
Yeah. Because I know they
yeah.
do a program. I think it's for Amber too. If you do get caught smoking, they'll put you on a phone, a phone program.
Mm-hmm.
It's a week or 4 days, and they talk to you and stuff about better resources and stuff.
I think that's a big thing.
Yeah.
Just showing them what other things they can do besides the bad choices.
Yeah. Or talking to someone, because we have a psychologist. We we have Miss Berner.
Miss Berner's amazing.
She's our school therapist, and not a lot of schools have that.
Yeah.
And I feel that's a really big help.
And it's really hard to find,
Yeah.
find therapists or school counselors that you can actually feel like you trust and that
Yeah.
you can
Yeah.
talk to. Because I've went through like years of school without being able to talk to like somebody I felt 100% like trusted with. And then when I came here, I started talking to Miss Berner, and it
Yeah.
was just like so
Because-
easy, you know what I mean? And it felt super comfortable and like
I think that's a good thing, like
Yeah.
having people that are trusted, so it doesn't feel like
Yeah.
you're just like
talking.
one step away from telling your parents.
Yeah, because like school, oh man, school's a
Yeah.
lot. And like I know like people like will start using like if like they have big tests coming up and like they're stressing, like that's like another way that people like use cannabis and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me ask you this. This is another thing that came to mind as I was talking about social media. Do you think social media companies should play a bigger role in ensuring that people are not selling these products on their platforms?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
I think like
There's got to be like an age limit on certain stuff you can buy
Yeah.
online.
Yeah.
Or you have to like send a picture of you and the ID together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah, or like
Because how TikTok shop, like how
Yeah.
you guys said, like there's little kids on TikTok
Yeah.
buying
Mhm.
that stuff, and when you go to buy stuff on there, you don't get ID'd. You don't get like there's no confirmation on making sure that you're of age,
yeah,
and they can just go on there and buy whatever they want. There just needs to be like restrictions for it.
yeah. I think restrictions is definitely a good thing. Like for things like that, it shouldn't be easy for like even people who are not our age, like even younger kids.
yeah.
Mhm.
Like the only restrictions on Snapchat is if you report the person. Like that's about it.
Mm.
Yeah,
Like if you like push their part button, but like anything other than that, like there's no restrictions at all.
exactly.
Unless you have like parental control on like
Mhm.
your social medias and stuff. Yeah.
Do you think parents have a lot going on in this time of era of life that it's a little harder to monitor what their children are doing? Do you
Yeah.
feel you hear that a
Yeah.
lot?
Yeah.
I feel like in some cases
Yeah.
the parents might be too distracted with what they have going on that they don't see. what
Yeah,
their
like
kids are
especially
doing.
as the kid gets older, like you would
Yeah.
like think like
Yeah.
like as a parent, like you'd be like, oh, like you could just tell them like be responsible,
Mhm.
but like you don't really know if they're being responsible or not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents could be like too busy with work and making sure that everything is good and like for their kid, make sure that they have food and
Yeah.
a roof over their head. They could be too busy like focusing on that and not really like seeing like who their child actually is becoming.
Yeah.
Because they could be acting one way to you, but once they're out of that door and on their own thing and with their own people, they could be a whole different person. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
And that's something a lot of parents don't really pay attention to. They kind of just let it fly by. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, oh, she's just getting older. That's just her. You know what I mean? But little kids aren't just like that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Last one.
Last one. Sorry. So, no, it's because we've had a lot of conversations recently about cannabis vaping in schools, and we've been really hearing from the community. So
Yeah.
I'm taking this opportunity because you're young people to hear from you. So one of the things that we've had a challenge with is we will hold like educational nights for parents to come and learn about vaping and the
Yeah.
effects and how it's affecting their children. But a lot of times we only get maybe one or two parents that show up.
Yeah.
What do you think should be done or can be done to attract more parents to want to come out and learn about this?
Like put like I don't know, like not scary information, but like
Something that
yeah,
intrigues
like
them.
that'll
Something
something
big.
that'll intrigue them, like young smoking, like could like people like at a young age like smoking high like potency cannabis can cause psychosis.
Psychosis and
Yeah.
Something that will
hallucinations.
like intrigue them and get them into
Yeah.
that. Like,
Mhm.
Because like I know like on the posters like it says like you can get cancer from it, but like I know like a lot of people like they just look past it,
Yeah,
like
Yeah,
they
they're
already
oh,
know
you can
that.
get cancer from
Yeah,
it.
you can
Yeah.
get cancer from anything.
Mhm.
Like you can go outside and breathe in the air and you can get cancer. Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel like something like
That
something
isn't as
big.
known, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that isn't put over it all the time to
Yeah.
like cover it up.
Yeah. And I think like good advertising, like you guys were saying, just like
Yeah.
put it in all their faces so that
Yeah.
they can see it, so they can maybe get an idea to pay attention to their kids more. They
Yeah.
can probably see what's going on with them.
And when doing like meetings and stuff or like showing the kids like how could affect you, I wouldn't sugarcoat like most of the information. You should put in like maybe a picture of lungs that are
Yeah.
Yeah.
falling apart because of smoking and stuff like that. You gotta
Yeah.
like put stuff in there that will like make them go like, oh okay, like,
Yeah.
maybe not.
Give
You
them
know?
like the real.
Mhm.
Because I
Yeah.
feel like people, they sugarcoat it a lot, just saying it's bad for you, it's just bad, but
They don't really give you like the
yeah,
deep
you keep
Yeah.
hearing it's bad,
Like,
it's bad,
people,
okay,
like-
it's bad.
Family members can be like, "Oh, smoking's bad for you," while they have a cigarette in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Iana and Jorge, for joining us today. We definitely, I know I have
Me
learned
too.
so much about the dangers in potent cannabis and other products that have cannabis in them and THC. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. We love you guys. Bye.
Bye.